When you look back at what went wrong for the Huskers a season ago, turnovers are at the very top of that list. Their 31 giveaways tied for the most in the nation. Their negative 17 margin was second worst nationally. They fumbled on 4.6% of their carries last year, most by a Big Ten team in a decade. Lost 15 of those fumbles. That was the most in the nation. Offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield is with us now. Coach, let's start there. Turnovers were a huge issue last year. How do you work on cutting down on that in camp? Like, take us through some of the things that you do.
I think the first part is we talk about it as coaches to the players, and they agree. Yeah, you can't turn the ball over. It does affect games, and I think when it becomes such an issue like it did last year, where it was so extreme, the players have finally taken the ownership as well of making sure that they're carrying the ball the proper way, the quarterback center exchange, the motion on timings, all that stuff has super urgency to it. So I think that's a big step, in correcting the issue, is the fact that they're so involved in making sure that does not reoccur. Because we were 5-4 last year in a bunch of games with minus 17 turnover margin. If you just take care of the football a little bit, how different could the year be?
A lot of those turnovers obviously came from the quarterback spot. You've got Dylan Rhule, a freshman. Give us a sense of how you have seen him evolve and how ready he is to take on this mantle.
He's very mature. When you talk to him, you'd think he was, in his early 20s. He's super competitive. He grinds at the game, to a point where you have to pull him away sometimes and tell him to go be a kid. He just stays up all night rewriting the play calls. It's just fun to watch him. He's trying to be the best version of him. And since he got here at Christmas, he's really just kept taking a step after step after step after step. And we like where he is, and all the quarterbacks are. We got, two young quarterbacks that are really, really talented and are pushing each other. And I think, Coach's whole foundation of this organization is iron sharpening iron in competition. I think that they've played well off each other.
Coach, that's one of the things that really jumped out at me. Just the competition that's in that room. Really one of the best quarterback rooms that I've seen on this tour. Take us through just how that competition, how you're watching these guys work and the competition on the field.
Well, we had Heinrich last year, and Heinrich hadn't played a lot of football. Last year was his first action. And he grew throughout the experience of the year. And then we come in the spring, we have Danny, we have Dylan. Danny and Dylan are two elite young quarterbacks. They don't have the experience, that Heinrich has. And, they don't have all the, the thoughts and things of playing in games yet. But just their maturity and watching them, like they're making throws in spring ball, like in the pocket, climbing up in the pocket that you just don't see young quarterbacks make. And so I think they just, they're good friends off the field. They compete on the field. And I think it's, making each one of them better for doing so.
Yeah, I think one of the things to help young quarterbacks out is to have an outstanding run game. You guys were able to do that last year. Tell us about that offensive line and that running back room.
The great thing about the offensive line is experience. And I think, you can't make up for experience. And we have that up front. I think that they've had an unbelievable offseason. They've had an unbelievable summer. They're in a good spot right now. We wanted to focus on we can run the football. Like, we can find ways to run the football. We just need to make sure we can pass pro at an elite level. And I think Coach Rhule has done an excellent job from the spring to the summer, just the development of that group and where they are now today.
What does this offense look like when it's humming, Coach? Like, what's the best version of the Nebraska offense?
We're a pro-style offense. We, like any other coaches, just steal things from the NFL and things that fit our guys. And, they want to have cool plays to run. They don't want to be boring and stagnant. So, we can play fast, we can play slow, we can throw it, we can run it, get the ball in the perimeter. So we're going to do whatever it takes. Each game, it takes something different to win. So hopefully we've got enough of every situation to do so.
Last question. It seems like wide receivers an area where you've really upgraded. Go into a little bit of depth on that group, if you would, and who are the guys who you think could really help you?
Yeah, we were really young during the year last year. It was tough having to play with these 18-year-old freshmen, and you pull your hair out at times. And now we're reaping the benefits of them playing. We had a young group, so when we went out in the transfer portal, we wanted to attack it to find two big brothers. And we found those with Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair, and they've come in. They're part of it. You'd think they've been with these guys for 3 or 4 years. They're a close unit. They take care of each other. They compete. Just real excited. Just you got Jalen Lloyd coming back that tied Marvin Harrison Jr. for 50-plus touchdown receptions, and then Jamal and Isaiah, and then I don't want to name a bunch of names because you'll forget some, but we're just really excited about where Coach McGuire's got that room and the productivity we think they can have this year.
Marcus Satterfield, thanks a lot, Coach. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
As we've already discussed, tons of buzz around the Nebraska QBs, much of it centered around Dylan Rhule. The true freshman was fabulous in the spring game, throwing for 239 yards. This on the heels of a high school career that saw him throw for nearly 8,500 yards. Fellow Frosh Daniel Kalen turned some heads in the spring game as well, going 9 of 16 through the air. He is a highly thought of in-state recruit. Heinrich Harburg, who started 8 games last year, returns this season. He was the Huskers' leading rusher a year ago. As for the guys who will be toting the rock, how about Emmett Johnson and Gabe Ervin Jr. there with Howard?
Talk to me a little bit about how the offense is gelling through camp.
Offense is really clicking during camp. I think we're in day 14, them dog days of camp where, we really got to stay consistent and stack those days. But, we're really, making an emphasis on starting fast and, getting the ball out rolling really fast. But I feel like we've been doing really good as an offense, coming together, just playing for each other, and it's been really good.
What's it been like as far as making sure you're taking care of the football on a down and down out basis?
Yeah, our coaches preach ball security a lot, but it's come for the players this year. We've been pushing each other every single day, going out there and just taking, big pride in taking care of the football, because that's going to be the difference in us winning football games this year. So we just push each other every single day, and, if somebody's not holding the ball correctly, we push them and tell them, you got to hold the ball right with the right point of security, and then also just emphasizing it every single day and letting people know how important it is, because that's going to help us win a lot of games this year.
Tell me how you two work together. There was a time when everyone wanted to be the only back carrying the ball. How's that times changed, and how do you guys work together?
We work together really well. I say we got a lot of different guys who can do a lot of different things in our room, which is great. We got bigger backs like Gabe and Dante. We got guys like me and Ramir who can do, both. So it's really, we've been gelling together in the room, and we all iron sharpens iron with everybody in the group. We've been doing a great job of pushing each other to be better, but most importantly, when we go on the field, we want to be dominant and just, show the world what we are.
Talk to me about the young quarterbacks and how they've been performing and how that changes what the offense can look like.
Well, we got young quarterbacks, but they didn't come in thinking young. They came in with an experienced mind. We got Dylan Rhule and we got Danny Kalen, which is some great young QBs. They got an arm too, and they came in good. And they're just trying to stack the days, the dog days of camp, and trying to stack the days and being consistent and working on the things they need to work on. But they might be freshmen, but they don't play like freshmen.
Best friend in the backfield is the offensive line. Talk about those guys.
Yes, sir. I love those boys. Every single day I tell them how much I appreciate them. But most importantly, they've been taking that next step. We got a lot of veteran guys in that room. Bryce Benhart, some of the older 6-year guys who came back, and they've all been doing a great job of just, learning protections. But most importantly, we all gel together. If our offensive line is doing good, and it's going to make our job easier. So every single day we're just pushing them. They're pushing us. And, those guys have been doing great. Coach Rhule has been doing great with those guys.
What's the mentality going into the first game? What will that be like?
That mentality, it's going to be a bloody mentality. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a hard nose, and we're going to try to make every team that we play, we're trying to make them feel us. We starting fast, nose dive in. We're ready to go. And we're just only doing that on the field each and every day. We're taking that mentality that we want in game one and putting it into each and every day we practice.
Last year is just that last year. But do you still have a chip on your shoulder just from the standpoint of people are talking about, well, if the offense could just be average or do a little bit more? How does that play in your psyche and as a group? I want to hear from both of you guys.
I would say just tuning out the noise. Most importantly, we don't really care about what, other people think about us. As an offense, we know what we have to do. Our coaches, I trust in them. We go out there every single day and we push each other to be better. And so I would just say tuning out the noise and just trusting our training. We have so many reps throughout fall camp. We've done things over and over and over again, so we should know how confident we are in ourselves now and just showing it on the field most importantly. But I would say we're really confident and we're not really worried about what other people have to say about us. We're just going to go out there and execute like we do in practice.
We're trying to forget about the past, but we also trying to learn from the past at the same time. You know, like, I feel like we kind of look at the past as a learning standpoint and figure out things that we did bad back then and we didn't execute back then and try to capitalize that even more. You know, double down on the details, double down on the situation. All those things going to, you know, come hand in hand in the ball game and those close games. And, I mean, we got to execute on them, you know. Coach talks about a culture of execution all the time, you know, and we just trying to build that culture of execution because that's what's going to win us ball games, you know, being fine in the details, on the small details, and those small details make a big difference in the ball game, so we have a W on the chart.
Well, guys, thanks a lot for joining me. Stay healthy. Have a great year.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, man.
Back in Lincoln, the ability to orchestrate quick turnarounds. One of the things that's made Matt Rhule so appealing for the Nebraska job. Did it at Temple and Baylor, where his second teams won 10 more games than his first team, so he averaged a 5-win improvement. 5-win improvement in Nebraska would get them to 10 wins, a mark they haven't hit in a dozen years. Would also break a streak of 7 straight losing seasons, their longest skid in 70-plus years. And pleased to have Coach Matt Rhule with me now. Matt, you've been part of some really good turnarounds, some year 2 improvements in the previous 2 programs that you've been at. What are the characteristics that you've seen in those teams that you're trying to get into this team?
I think the biggest thing is when the players start to understand that it's not Coach Rhule's way, it's not the coaching staff's way, it's our way. And when there's ownership from the players through the locker room, then they start to make those things happen. And I think when you see this team led by the seniors that we have, I think we're right on track. Those guys are doing exactly what I ask.
Describe the motivation level of this team.
Oh, I think it's high. I mean, when you have guys like, you know, Ty Robinson, Bryce Benhart, Isaac Gifford, many more who turned down a chance to go play in the NFL because they wanted to be part of the turnaround. They want to be the class that's remembered for, hey, you know what, we got this thing back on track. They don't take these days lightly. They're putting the work in to get where they want to get.
One thing that really stands out to me about the way you run camp is you have players live in dorms, you have the staff live in dorms as well. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, we play for the University of Nebraska, and we play for the student body, and we play for campus. And so I think just kind of returning back, I think there's a brotherhood in football. You know, long after the records are over, long after the trophies are handed out, you'll remember the guys that you played with. You'll have memories. And so we go back in the dorms to get back on campus, spend some time together. You know, you can start walking down the hall, you see guys playing cards, you see guys eating together. It's just, you know, sometimes the old school things are the good things.
Let's get into personnel a little bit, and it was clear you needed to improve offensively versus where you were a year ago. We'll get to Dylan in a second, but where have you seen the biggest jump outside of the quarterback position?
Well, I think the biggest jump overall really is the skill players, the receiver play. You know, we had some guys last year that had to play. Jalen Lloyd, I mean, he started the year off thinking he's probably going to redshirt. Malachi Coleman thinking, hey, I'm probably going to redshirt. And by the end of the year, they were starting. And so you have those guys a year later knowing what to expect. You have the guys we brought in, whether it's Isaiah Nayor, Jamal Banks, whether it's Ja'Cory Barney and those guys coming in as freshmen recruited. I think we have firepower. And, you know, last year we were a run team. People could blitz us and say, hey, we dare you to throw it. Now with the people we have outside, they can go win the one-on-one battles. I think we can be way, way, way more balanced.
Let's talk about Dylan. There is so much hype around him and so much focus. We already know how invested people are in Nebraska football. And when you're a quarterback with that kind of accolades coming in here, there's going to be so much put on his shoulders. What have you said to him about dealing with all of that?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, expectations are really sometimes what ruin people, you know, what ruin teams. We just want to be a team. I want Dylan and all of our players to just get a little bit better every day. And I want them to have higher expectations for themselves than anyone else has. And so, to me, this is a game you love. I want them to play this game, and we're going to work now, but I want them to play this game the way they played it when they were 8, 9, 10. Not worrying about what people are expecting of them, but just going out to play and compete. And I see a lot of that in Dylan. I see a guy that he plays the game with joy and with passion, and you know what? He's a freshman. You're going to have some freshman mistakes when you're playing, but by and large, he comes to work every day. We have a great quarterback room. We have a lot of competition in there, and all the guys are ready to go.
Defense, you made such huge strides a year ago, and you bring back a ton of experience there. What's the next level for that group?
I think it's not giving up the big plays we gave up last year. Understanding that when you are an accomplished defense, you're going to get things people haven't shown yet. You're going to get trick plays. You are going to get double moves, and us being able to react to those things, not just playing the plays that we're expecting, and taking the ball away. We were one of the worst teams in the country, if not the worst, in terms of turnover margin. And so a lot of people talk a lot about the offense, and that we should. But we only took the ball away 14 times. And so with the guys that we have, we should take the ball away. We should make plays on the ball. We should play with a sense of confidence. When the ball's in the air, it's ours. And so that is the next step, and I think the guys are kind of answering that call.
One of the things that's really struck me as we've come here over the last decade or so is the investment. It's an emotional investment of the fan base and everyone who loves Nebraska, but there's also a huge investment from the university. This facility is unbelievable that we're sitting in now. Had a great chance to walk around it with Troy Dannon earlier today, and it's just amazing. What does this mean? How has this streamlined your operation?
Well, I mean, it's one of the reasons why I came here. Knowing the fan base and knowing that there's not going to be a lack of resources, knowing that we have everything you need to be successful. What this building has done is, number one, it tells players that football's important here. It's not gaudy in the sense of like recruiting. It's adorned with things that help you play better. Yeah. Whether it's recovery, whether it's your physical health, your mental health, whether it's learning football, whether it's this walk-through room where you can get 1,000 reps. It's a place where people who want to be great at football can come in and be great at football. And so it gives us everything we want, and I think it's just a sign of the University of Nebraska has everything if you want to be a great player that you need.
The NCAA has changed rules this year that allow you to have more coaches on the field coaching, again, at a place with a lot of resources. How has that helped you?
Well, we didn't go out and hire a bunch of veteran coaches and, break the bank. What we did was we have a lot of great young coaches. And I've always respected the Bill Belichick's and coaches like that who have their coaching tree and they grow them from within. So we have a bunch of young coaches here that maybe they're serving as an analyst and maybe they're assisting with the linebackers. But what that does is hey, I'm third team. Am I ever going to be good? I have someone pouring into me. I have someone investing in me. Every player out there is getting coached, whether it's by the lead position coach, whether it's by the assistant position coach. I don't think there's anything wrong with coaching guys. So I'm so glad the NCAA changed that rule. We're able now to pour into young people's lives. And I think when you see why people don't transfer from here, it's because they feel like, hey, I'm being coached, I'm cared about, they want to see me be great. And a lot of that is our young coaches who do that.
Last question for you, Matt. How do you define success for Nebraska football this year?
Well, I'd say for us, we want to be relevant. When I was at the New York Giants, I never forget Jerry Reese telling me at the New York Giants, we expect every year to be in the running coming down the stretch, to go to the playoffs and eventually go to the Super Bowl. And so for us, we have to make a step from last year. It's been a long time since we got to a bowl game. But true success at the University of Nebraska, whether that's this year or next year, whatever it is, but we want to be relevant. We want to come down the stretch in November, heading into December, where we're in the mix for the Big Ten championship. We're in the mix to go play in the college football playoff. I mean, you're playing in one of the two hardest conferences in college football, and we're not going to make apologies for the fact that we think we belong. And so that's what we expect. And I'm banking on these guys this year that we can make a run at that.
Matt Rhule, fun to watch your team today. Thanks a lot for your time. Appreciate it. They mentioned nobody in the Big Ten returns more starters than the Huskers, 17 overall. That includes 8 on the defensive side of the ball. They were particularly tough against the run last season, allowing just under 93 yards per game, the fewest this century. 2 of the keys to that jump, Nash Hutmacher and John Bullock with Howard.
Guys, you guys made a huge leap last year on the defensive side of the football. Talk to me about some of the things that went into that.
I would say the biggest thing is just continuing to develop our skills as we got older, right? New staff, integrating ourselves into that new defense that we were running, and to continue to just develop, and the mindset going into it. Just going out there and planning on winning games on the defensive side of the ball, and the mindset, no matter what situation we were in, we were going to go out there and get it done defensively.
Talk to me about winning games on the defensive side. It seems like that's a rallying call for you guys this offseason.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that defense is a big thing. Defense wins games, but I think we have the right guys in the room right now, right guys in the defense. I think we're all coming along as a team right now, and I think we're stronger than we were even last year. And I can't wait for the season to start.
Where do you go from here, right? How do you build on last year?
We just take what we did last year and obviously we continue to build on it.
Without being complacent.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the first things Coach White said to us in the defensive unit meeting room was that this group this year hasn't done anything yet. We can't get complacent. The guys in this room this year haven't done anything yet. We're going to continue to develop and work like we haven't done anything yet. And so I think that set the tone for the summer going into camp that we're not going to be complacent. We're going to continue to get better and better every single day.
Tell us about some of the younger guys that are stepping up that could possibly help, whether it's on the defensive side or in the special teams game.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of good young guys, a lot of talent there. There's still a lot of development to be done, but I mean, I could say a lot of guys. I mean, on defense, you got Amari Sanders who's stepping up really big. Still got young guys like Prince Will. He's in his second year now, stepping up. Mario Buford's doing well. I mean, we have a lot of young guys that are doing really well on the defensive side of the ball. And then you got the young guys like Jalen Lloyd, Ja'Cory Barney, obviously Dylan Rhule. Just a lot of guys that are going to have to step up this year, and I think they know what to expect this year.
What's it been like competing against this offense?
It's been fun. You know, it's every day we go out to practice, we're competing against the offense, right? Like, we're never going out there. It's like, oh, it's just practice. Like, every day it's a battle to win the day in our minds. Every single period, every single rep, everything. We're going out there to compete and beat the offense every day, and it's vice versa for them. So it's a very competitive atmosphere out there. It's a lot of fun.
Give me a couple of keys for success on the defensive side to do your part for this season to be successful.
I think one thing that we've been emphasizing this fall is just takeaways, because we were a good defense stopping the ball last year, but I think takeaways kind of is our biggest thing we need to work on, and just taking the ball away, getting more turnovers. Yeah.
It's coming. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Tell me about this pick.
Coach, we have
I mean, this is great.
Yeah, I know. We have a group chat with all the older guys on the defense, and Coach White said that picture into it, and we all we were laughing. We couldn't believe it.
I told you to be ready for the curveball. It was coming.
Yeah, that's the curveball.
You guys have a great season. Stay healthy, and look forward to watching you guys this year.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Pretty remarkable when you look at just how much better the Nebraska defense was in year one under coordinator Tony White. Huge improvements in scoring D and total D. Opponents ran for less than half as many yards as they had in 2022. They were fifth in the Big Ten in scoring defense. Amazingly, that marked the first time the Huskers have ever finished in the top 5 in the conference. Defensive coordinator Tony White is with us now. Coach, you took a huge jump a year ago. How do you build on that?
Yeah, you just take the things that you did well last year. You look at it schematically, the things you did well you want to keep, and the things you didn't do well you want to tinker with and fix. And then you're always trying to see how you can gain an advantage. So whether that's putting a guy in a different position, whether that's philosophy-wise, whether you're introducing new coverages or new games, something like that, you're always trying to improve on yourself.
Is there a particular unit that you feel like has taken the biggest jump this year?
Yeah, I think the defensive line, I know there's a lot of noise about the defensive line, and rightfully so. I think we got a couple of the best players in the country up there with Jamari, Ty, Nash. But all those guys that we played last year, the James Williams, Riley Van Pop, Cam Lenhart, Prince Will, those guys. And then there's some young guys who also played a little bit redshirted, but I'm anxious to see them get on the field, on the grass, and let loose, so we'll see.
How are you able to build on last year from this standpoint? The offense turned the football over. How do you keep your team together from a defensive standpoint and say, guys, don't worry about what's going on over there? I know this year you guys are talking about winning games. What's the mentality that you need to instill into your players?
Yeah, I think that that's a top-down deal. I think the culture around this place of what's next and one better. Last year after the Michigan game, we ended up practicing that next night, and I think that was a real turning point for the team where you could see when adversity hit in the beginning of the season, it was one of those things like, oh, man, here we go again. And then just gradually it was like, okay, let's go rock out. It doesn't matter. So it's just continue guys being in that position, the culture around here, and coach constantly putting us in those positions and then learning from them. I think it's going to pay dividends.
You guys have been doing an outstanding job on the recruiting trail. Tell us about some of the young guys that can possibly help you out defensively.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to watch those guys run around. I mean you got guys up front, guys who you didn't know about. Again, James Williams being one of those guys who nobody knew about, and all of a sudden he's playing last year. Vincent Shavers in the secondary, in the linebacker core, I think he's a guy who's going to be really explosive, play a lot of games. And then in the secondary, I mean, you got transfer in from USC, Sierra Wright, who's playing ball real well. You got Amari Sanders, who's showing out right now. And again, you got some of the class right before who might not have played a lot, but they're putting in great work on the grass.
You had an interesting transition you had to make pretty close to the season and bringing in Coach Butler. Tell me how you've integrated him in and what he brings to your staff.
Yeah, I think I've integrated to Coach Butler. He's old school Philly dude, man. He gung ho. I got to slow him down. He's like, we can do this coverage. We can do this coverage. And it's like, but great addition. Yeah. I think he's the right guy at the right place at the right time for the guys. A lot of knowledge. He's got a lot of swag, and again, rightfully so. He's been there, done it, seen it at the highest levels. Had some great secondaries in the NFL, so I think the guys are excited about getting on the grass with them, and it's showing up.
Last question for you. We know that Nebraska needs to improve offensively. You go up against this offense every single day. Give people a sense of where you have seen improvements in the Huskers offense.
Yeah, I mean, all around. I mean, our rush defense last year was good because we faced our offense and they can run the ball. Now you see with the quarterbacks, with Glenn, Sat, and everybody, you see the elements of the passing game, just the different formations, the different personnel groupings. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on, and as a defense, you appreciate that because those are elements we're going to see throughout the year from different teams. Whether we're playing the spread or whether we're playing guys who are going to put tight ends in the box and try to pound on you. So it's really making us better as a defense.
Reverend, we can't let them off the hook without this one. Tell us about the communication in the helmet and how that's going to really work for you guys. And is there a group that you want to continue to use, or will you use multiple people?
Yeah, we've been experimenting with multiple people, and so whether it's linebacker or safety, just trying to see. The one thing that we can't simulate is a crowd noise. It's louder on defense, so it's going to be harder for one guy to be yelling out all of the different signals and different communicate there that way. So we've done a lot of different things: signals, hands, pre-snap, during the snap. So we're continuously trying to make that process better.
See, that wasn't bad.
Wasn't bad at all.
You did a pretty good job of simulating the crowd noise on that coming out from even your
I couldn't hear a thing. I could not hear a thing out there. Yeah. No, but it was good. It was good. Good practice.
All right, Tony White, thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you.
Wrapping things up from Lincoln, where the sellout streak will hit 400 consecutive games this year. Hard to find a place more passionate about college football. And the fans at Memorial Stadium will get to see 4 straight home games to start the season, beginning August 31st against Texas El Paso. Huge one in Week 2 against Deion Sanders and the Buffs. We've got the Week 3 game against Northern Iowa in primetime. Illinois visits for a primetime game. That's Week 4 on Fox. They go to Ohio State in late October. They're at USC in mid-November, at Iowa on Black Friday, but do not play Oregon, Michigan, or Penn State. I like that schedule, Howard. I like it a lot early. I think they've got a chance to pick up some momentum. To me, the most important game is Week 2 against Colorado. That is going to be a measuring stick game for this program. We know about the history of the rivalry, and we know, frankly, what Colorado did to them a year ago.
And let's understand this. They were in control of that game a year ago, and they got away with those turnovers. But this is a great opportunity, right? And you look at the schedule, and things kind of line up pretty well for them. They just need to take care of business the first half of that schedule to really gain that momentum that they need.
Yeah, I think that momentum would be huge for this team. Interested in your final takeaways here. It was an impressive practice. I think it's clear that they have improved. Yeah. Again, I said this off the top, and I'm going to reiterate it. I think there's just a different vibe here. I think they're ready to win. You get the sense here that everyone believes that. Ultimately, what's going to make this a successful or non-successful year?
To me, one of the things that jumps out is you look at the way Coach Rhule moves around the football field. Last year, he was doing a lot more coaching, just trying to get people to understand what the expectation was. This year, today, we didn't see as much of that. So that tells me that the buy-in has been there. The work and the efforts have been put in, not only by the players, but obviously the coaches to get them where they need to be. It starts at the quarterback position, Reverend. He Rhule is good as advertised. And I think the maturity that he has, is filtered throughout the entire offense. And that's not to say that they don't have leaders at other positions, because that's not the case. But at the quarterback position, he's got to be a difference maker, right? So that O-line helping him, that tight end room helping him, being able to run the football, I think really is going to change really the fortunes of this team. And he's got a lot of pressure on him. It really is. And I'm sure he puts the pressure on himself. But I think the team still has to come together and be able to take care of their business.
There is a lot of pressure. There's a lot of excitement, though, too. And I think then the challenge becomes, and Matt Rhule talked a little bit about this, kind of how do you drown all that out? How do you focus in on what's going on the positive stuff? It's cool to see Eric Crouch here today, right? There's a lot of investment.
The most unassuming Heisman Trophy winner you've ever seen, and one of the good guys.
Such a good man, a guy who worked with us for a time at the Big Ten Network. But he talked about the pressure of playing quarterback here. But you can't help but to be impressed with the way that Dylan Raiola carries himself. And to a large extent, I think there's a feeling that they have a supporting cast around him that doesn't put it all on his shoulders.
And I think that's the biggest part of it, right? Each player at each position has to understand what the expectation is, right? He's going to get all the hype. He's also going to get all the blame. But it's also important that the rest of the unit is picking up their part and doing their part. And I think when you look at that running back room, you look at the wide receiver room, the pieces are there. I think it's also interesting when you talk about this defense taking on the badge of we can win the football game. We need to be able to win it. And that's huge. So I think this is a team. You already said it. Is something brewing here. And I think fans are going to be excited when they see it.
The foundation has been laid, no question about it. Well, we are off to Iowa City next. Check in on the Hawkeyes, a 10-win team a season ago, despite the fact they had all kinds of offensive struggles. They brought in Tim Lester to run the offense. Be interested to see how that group looks. Defense will always be strong there, and I feel like there's going to be at least a passing interest
a little bit
and checking in on the Hawks. That show will run on Friday here on the Big Ten Network.